As we edge closer to the next election, the Albanese Labour government has been making headlines for its extravagant spending. Billions of dollars are being splashed on infrastructure, health initiatives, green schemes, and an expanding public sector, all while the federal budget is heading for years of deficits. With government debt already soaring and inflation a persistent challenge, many Australians are left wondering whether this level of spending is responsible or just reckless politics.
Let's break it down.
Labor's pre-election announcements have committed billions in additional spending, funding everything from road projects to broadband expansions, healthcare reforms, and a staggering increase of 36,000 public sector employees. On top of that, the government is pouring hundreds of millions into advertising its own policies, a move critics argue is little more than taxpayer-funded self-promotion.
But the spending spree doesn't stop there.
One of the latest proposals is for the federal government to step in and buy Rex Airlines, which has entered administration. The idea is that if no commercial buyer is found, taxpayers might foot the bill for yet another government-owned entity. It's a move that highlights a broader trend, an ever-expanding government footprint in areas traditionally left to the private sector.
This relentless expansion of government is occurring against the backdrop of serious economic concerns.
Inflation remains a problem, government debt is ballooning, and deficits are set to stretch years into the future. Yet, instead of tightening the belt, Labor seems determined to open the floodgates even wider. While all this is happening in Australia, on the other side of the world, billionaire entrepreneur Elon Musk has been vocal about the dangers of unchecked government spending. In a recent conversation at the White House, Musk shared a sobering insight. The interest payments on the U.S. national debt now exceed the country's defense budget. For context, the U.S. spends more on defense than most other countries combined, so that's no small figure. According to Musk, this trajectory is unsustainable. It's not optional for us to reduce federal expenses, it's essential, he warned. If the debt crisis is left unchecked, the U.S. could face economic disaster. President Donald Trump has also weighed in, highlighting rampant government waste. He cited absurd examples like government contracts continuing to be paid for decades after their expiry, simply because nobody bothered to cancel them. Musk echoed similar concerns, pointing out cases where Social Security payments were still being issued to individuals who, if alive, would be over 150 years old. The bigger issue at play here isn't just wasteful spending, it's the unchecked growth of bureaucracy. Musk has gone as far as to argue that modern bureaucracy has effectively become a fourth branch of government, one that is unelected, unaccountable, and increasingly powerful. He questioned whether democracy truly exists if bureaucrats, rather than elected officials, hold the real power. Now, let's bring it back home. What Musk is describing in the US is eerily similar to what we are witnessing under the Albanese government. A growing bureaucracy, an explosion in public sector hiring, and a spending agenda that prioritizes government expansion over economic discipline. Under Labor, an additional 36,000 bureaucrats have been added, many of them in Canberra, yet there's little evidence that this has improved productivity. If anything, the opposite is happening.
More government doesn't necessarily mean better governance. More bureaucrats don't always mean better services.
And as we've seen in history, as government expands, individual freedoms tend to shrink. This is something that past leaders, like Ronald Reagan, understood well. Reagan famously warned that government growth comes at the cost of personal liberty, and his words ring true today. Australians should be cautious of any government that promises more control, more rules, and more spending, because that always comes at a cost. With the next election approaching, the question Australians should be asking is, where does this end?
How much more debt are we willing to rack up? How much bigger can the government get before it becomes unsustainable?
Perhaps opposition leader Peter Dutton and his team, including the newly appointed Shadow Minister for Government Efficiency, Jacinta Nampijinpa-Price, will take note of what's happening overseas and start offering real solutions to curb waste and limit government overreach. Because at the end of the day, government should serve the people, not the other way around. That wraps up our analysis. Thank you for tuning in. If you found this discussion insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more political analysis.
See you next time.